Once upon a time, several years ago, I was facilitating a group at a business. And it was a tough situation, lots of conflict going on in the group. We really needed to hear everyone's voices. But every time we'd ask for people to share, there was this one guy that would just start talking, kind of not stop. And I remember interrupting him at least 4 times. Like, hey, can I interrupt for a second? Hey, I'm going to ask us to move on from this. Hey, our time is running out here. And it was like I could not get this guy to stop. I'm sure we've all had these situations in groups. You've got an overtalker, somebody that when it's time for them to speak, they take up more space than anyone else in the room, and they don't always seem to notice that they're doing it. So here's a couple of tips taken from our Authentic Facilitator course. They're just kind of the tip of the iceberg of some ideas of how to deal with overtalkers. The first one is to do what we call assuming positive regard. The idea of it is, when people are over-talking, they're usually not doing it out of any malicious intent. They don't usually want to hold the entire group hostage. Oftentimes, they're just really excited about what they have to share, and they're not aware of the effect on the rest of the group. So, assume that there's something positive. Assume that there's excitement, that there's something that they want to share, and bring an attitude of appreciation or at least some openness to this human as a human being, and not just a thorn in your proverbial shoe. The second thing is, find a way to interrupt them moderately quickly after you become clear that they're repeating themselves or what they're saying is going beyond the amount of time that you have for them to speak versus the rest of the group. A great way to do this is use their name and summarize them and then ask for what you want instead. So with this guy, something that I tried is, hey, Steve, can I pause you for a moment? I love that phrase, can I pause you for a moment? Can I pause you for a moment? What I hear you saying is that there are some big problems in this company and you really want to see them resolved. Love it. And if I got that correct, I'd like to move on and hear from some other voices and hear what other people think are problems in the company. I wish I'd been that composed and put together in this situation. Another thing that you can do is actually structure it so that overtalking is not as much of an issue in the first place. A lot of the time, we assume that the only way to gather shares is to get people to raise their hand or to take whoever wants to speak. But there's another way. For instance, have people pass the ball to the next person. Hey, Steve, I love what you're saying. Can you pass the ball to the next person to speak that you'd like to hear from? Another way to do this is potentially to take stack. Have people raise their hand when they want to speak, write it down, and keep a note of the people that are on the list to speak and make sure you get to all of them. Or even say deliberately, I'd love to hear from some quieter voices in the room. Is there anybody that's sitting on something that you maybe haven't fully thought through or haven't gotten a chance to say? Can you raise your hand? Cool. I want to wait a minute to give you a chance to formulate your opinions. So those are a couple ways that I use in dealing with the essential overtalker.